Have you recently found yourself thinking, I've got a bit too much time? You know, when you're younger, school, at university, there were those sort of days when you didn't really know what to do. Well, that all feels a bit surreal right now. That all feels impossible. In fact, most of the time, I'm much more likely to find myself thinking, I wish I had an extra day in the week. In fact, quick show of hands, does anyone want an 8th day in the week? Yes, yes, there we go. That sounds about right. Well, you don't need me to tell you that the world is moving faster and faster with every day that passes. What used to take weeks now takes seconds. Anyone under the age of 30 in the room probably won't remember this, but having a conversation with someone used to involve calling them on one of these amazing rotary phones, tick, 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 tick. Then leaving a message, because inevitably they wouldn't be in, and then somebody would pass that message on to them, and then they'd call you back, but you wouldn't be in. It would take days just to be able to have a chat with someone. Now I've got 13 chat apps on my phone. These are actual screenshots. I went through and I screenshotted every single app that I've got installed. It's like a window into my soul. And there's 13 of them, so the usual, right? Messages and WhatsApp and Gmail. But then Twitter and Facebook Messenger and Instagram. And I used to have Snapchat. I don't really know where that went, but it should have been on there. Then I've got Slack, which we use at work, Skype and Google Hangouts, which I also use for some work purposes, and then Signal and Discord and Telegram, random chat apps, but I know people who only use those, so I had to install them. So here I am, 13 chat apps, and I'm getting messages through all of them all day, every day. I tried really hard to prevent all of this. In fact, 6 years ago, I actually wrote an instruction manual. I wrote a communications policy for how people should communicate with me. It basically said that I was going to read emails, but if you sent me a message through any other channel, there was quite a big chance that I wouldn't ever look at it. And I sent this, well, it's up on my blog, but I sent this to my colleagues, to my friends, to my wife, who wasn't very impressed, as you can imagine, but still with me 6 years later. She's sitting right there. And you know what? Those 6 years were fantastic, because for those 6 years, or for the majority of them, I was in full control. I was in control of the flow of communication, the flow of messaging to me. I wasn't disrupted. I felt relaxed. I felt at peace. But about a year ago, I started to feel like I was falling behind the rest of the world. I started to realize that people were just simply not willing to follow my communications protocol, my instructions, and that if I wanted to keep up with the world, that I would have to cave. And so I did. And so now I have 13 chat apps, and I'm getting messages through them nonstop, all day, every day. And so it seems to all the rest of us, because we spend 3 hours, 15 minutes every day checking our phones, on average. That is 24 hours over the course of the week, so 1 out of 7 days that we have in the week, we are spending just checking our phones. Well, actually, that's not quite right, because we sleep, right? So that's more like 2 of the waking days out of the 7 that we have. We are getting our phones out of our pocket and checking them. We get them out of our pocket every 12 minutes, on average, to check them. We spend over a quarter of our day just dealing with emails. In fact, 100 million emails have just been sent in the couple of seconds it's taken me to tell you all of this. And all of these numbers go up and up and up every year. So really, is it any wonder that we feel like we constantly, endlessly, never have enough time? And what about marketing? Well, 20 years ago, marketing was a lot easier too. All we had was direct mail, print, radio, TV, and this guy. So maybe we'd get some pamphlets through our letterbox. Maybe we'd flick through a magazine on our way into work. Maybe we'd watch a couple of dozen adverts in the evening as we watched our favorite TV shows. But then everything changed. The internet arrived. It gave marketers the ability to communicate at scale. Digital marketing. A revolution. And a revolution it certainly was. Because we've all seen this stat, I'm sure. Now, each of us sees 5,000 ads every single day. That is where the digital marketing revolution has ended up taking us. Why? Because we all have targets. Marketers need to make sales. We have targets to hit, all of us. And those targets continue to go up day after day. So As soon as one smart, creative, innovative marketer comes up with some brand new way of hitting their target, all the rest of us have to copy them immediately. If you send a newsletter every single day, then we've got to as well. If you're targeting everyone on Facebook, then we better do that too. Digital marketing hasn't really given us the ability to communicate. It's given us the requirement to bombard. This is where digital marketing has got us. And so here we are in a place where no one wants to be marketed to anymore. And do we think this is likely to stop? Well, why would it? Think about where we'll be in 10 years' time, in 2030. Fast forward to that. Our phones give way to digital smartwatches, to smart glasses, to smart contact lenses. At that point, we have digital video and sound available to us 24/7, wherever we are, without needing to get a device out of our pocket. Augmented reality becomes not just a buzzword, but becomes everyday life. It just becomes reality. And at that point, we won't be seeing ads every 12 minutes when we get a phone out to check them. No, we'll be seeing them every single second. As we walk down the street, all of our stores will be enticing people to come in. As we sit and work on our digital contact lenses, little adverts will pop up based on what we're working on. As we start to have a conversation with one of our children, newsletters from kidswear brands will pop up right next to their face. The trajectory for marketing is clear. More channels, more messages, more volume, more scale. Grab attention anywhere you can, however you can, by brute force if we need to. As soon as a new channel appears, great, let's start advertising on it. TikTok, isn't that what all the kids are on these days? Well, perfect. When is that going to get big? Because we are ready to start marketing the hell out of it. This technology, these revolutions, they haven't helped all of us make sales or hit our targets. They've just put us all into a spiral of competing with each other, a spiral of having to chase each other, a spiral of stealing our customers' time. Because how many of these messages do you think these days end up being relevant, helpful, exciting, positive experiences? Not that many, it turns out. And yet, every single one of those 5,000 adverts, of those 200 emails that we each see every single day, steals a tiny bit of time from our customer. A second here, a second there. Or worse, a minute here, a minute there. And suddenly the whole day has disappeared, and it's time for a whole new day of the same thing. Do you know what happens when we see an email land in our inbox? I'm going to go really, really nerdy here. There is an old Buddhist concept of the feeling tone. And this concept is now a big part of Western psychology. The feeling tone refers to the positive or negative, the pleasant or unpleasant tonality of an experience that we have. And our brain determines what kind of experience we're going to have, what kind of tone it's going to have, predictively and immediately. So let's say we're about to experience something. The hippocampus, the little blue bit over there, immediately compares it with a list of previous things that we've experienced and makes a judgment call. And then the amygdala, the red bit over there, then sends that out as a message to all of our brain and body systems. So when we encounter something that's been linked to rewards in the past, the dopamine-releasing neurons in our brain start to activate, and we start to feel good. And the same thing happens when we encounter something that has the potential to lead to rewards in the future, such as a marketing message from one of our favorite brands with an offer for something that we really like. And then on top of that, a second biochemical system activates, which releases additional pleasant chemicals called endorphins into the synapses which are active at the time in our brain, strengthening them, making them more likely to fire again in future. So let's say we are calm, we are relaxed, we're sitting in our living room, and we get an email from one of our favorite brands. Now, we've had a pleasant experience with that brand and with their emails before, so the hippocampus makes a judgment call that we're likely to have a pleasant experience again. The amygdala sends out that message, and we feel good we feel happy. Dopamine is released, endorphins are released. We open, we click, we buy, and the synapses to do all of that are reinforced, making it more likely that when we next hear from that brand, we will do exactly the same thing. So far, so good, right? Great. The marketer has won, the customer has won. Everyone has won. But what happens if we are stressed? If we're rushing around, which, as we just heard, is most of the time, we open our inbox and there's yet another message from a brand we just heard from yesterday. We opened it yesterday, but it wasn't interesting, and we were busy and we were stressed. We didn't have a good experience. So the hippocampus says, this is not going to be great. The amygdala sends out an alarm, unpleasant tone incoming. The thalamus, a little relay station in the middle of our brain, sends all of that out to all of our systems. The sympathetic nervous system activates. It tells all of our major organs and muscle groups that it's time to fight or flight. The adrenal glands, the pituitary glands, start to secrete stress hormones. Within a couple of seconds, our body is on fire. Stress hormones are coursing through our veins. We're ready to run away from a lion. But there's no lion. It's just a marketing message. No one has won here. We are definitely not buying after that. We're deleting that email immediately. We're swearing under our breath. And it gets worse, right? Because remember the hippocampus? Well, it has just recorded the tone of that experience as unpleasant. And that means that next time when we hear from that brand, or maybe from any other brand, the amygdala is much more likely to send out an alarm again, even if the message itself is much more relevant, even if it comes at a much better time. The synapses to delete that message straight away have just been strengthened by that one experience. You see, our experiences matter a lot more than their momentary subjective impact. They compound. They make enduring changes to the actual physical structures of our brain. And that directly affects what we end up doing in the future. And it directly affects our well-being. That's why 70% of us now regularly feel overwhelmed by marketing emails. Our brains don't want to have to keep putting up with this barrage of emails, the irrelevant messages that continue pounding away at our inbox. We end up moving into trait anxiety. Every time we even think about our inbox, we think, God, I'm feeling anxious. I don't know why. And so we try and do everything we can. We get tools like SaneBox or Unroll Me, tools that are specifically made to get rid of all the marketing messages. We start to take up mindfulness meditation. We've even now got anti-anxiety apps. We buy fidget spinners. But it just keeps getting worse. No one wants this. As consumers, we obviously don't want this. But as marketers, we obviously don't want this either. Marketers are just trying to help people find, discover new things that they'd love, new things that will make them happy. No one starts a brand to sell random things to people who don't want them. People start brands because they deeply, passionately care about giving their customers something that they're going to love. And marketers join those brands because they believe in that same vision and have that same passion. Back in the day, a century ago, the local village store owner would know every one of their customers. When a customer would come in, they'd be welcomed, they'd be made to feel special, they'd be helped in finding all the things they were looking for. There would be no torrent of marketing, there would be no wasting of time. There would just be a perfect, personalized, pleasant experience that would save them time. And customers love to buy. We are a society of consumers. That's not a bad thing. In the 18th century, there was a huge debate between the most eminent psychologists, philosophers, and economists of the time. It was known as the luxury debate, and it addressed whether it was a good or bad thing to sell people things that they didn't need. And the conclusion was that our society works not on the basis of needs anymore, but on the basis of wants. If we can build a successful business, a profitable business, then irrespective of whether what it sells is an actual need or not, we end up with reserves in society, with reserves that we spend on a standing army to protect our nation, on a welfare policy to look after the sick, the elderly, the young. It's how we pay for our hospitals, how we pay for our schools. It is a good thing for society as a whole that consumers like to buy things and that we sell those things to them. So here we are, marketers, trying to do good, trying to help people discover the things that are going to make them happy. And here consumers are very happy to buy, very happy to become customers, very happy to receive marketing, as long as it doesn't waste their time. So how have we managed to get it so wrong? How have we used the technologies that we've been given to go so far down a spiral that achieves the exact opposite? We, marketers, can change this. We can break out of the vicious circle. We can prevent a future of endless interruptions in our digital contact lenses, of adverts every second, of overload, of anxiety. We can take a stand. We can use technology to bring harmony to both sides. Because that technology exists now. Customer data can make each customer understood. AI can make each customer's interests predicted. And consumers aren't scared of this. Almost 70% of them don't have an issue with all of us using AI on them. What they do have an issue with is us stealing their time. So what if we could be giving our customers their time back? What if customers could continue having happy, great experiences and discovering great things that they're interested in? What if both sides ended up with a much deeper relationship that was underpinned by true loyalty? Just imagine the world that that will lead to. The communication overload has subsided. It's 2030. Marketers have taken a stand. They've said no to newsletters every day. They've said yes to understanding each customer. And suddenly, each customer sees marketing in a completely different light. As one particular customer takes a break, starts to wonder what they might wear on the weekend, the perfect message pops up. The message understands not just their behavior, but their emotional state, how they're feeling, because tracking technologies have progressed to being able to not only understand what we do, but also understand how we feel. The brand knows that that message will not interrupt them. And because that's how marketing is now done, the customer gets genuinely excited when they see it. They get on with their day feeling happier, feeling like they discovered a treasure they might not have found otherwise, feeling grateful that marketing exists, and, of course, having made a purchase. That sounds like a world I would much rather live in. In fact, it sounds like a world that I really want to help create. Because do any of us really want to be stealing our customers' time? Or have we just been forced into doing that? Wouldn't we all much rather be giving them their time back? We spend time. We save time. We lose time. We kill time. We rob and get robbed of time. We have all the time in the world. None of us have the power to stop the march of time. But each of us has the power to make a choice. Am I a time taker, or am I a time maker? Thank you.